You know, when President Obama was talking just a little bit ago in Minneapolis, he said one of the things that we can do is we can confirm the ATF director that I've nominated, the U.S. Attorney Todd Jones, a former director of the Minneapolis FBI office, sent a letter last week to members of the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee blasting Todd Jones's performance as a U.S. attorney in Minnesota. Donald Oswald is according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, a self-declared Democrat and supporter of President Obama. But he said he felt, quote, morally compelled to alert the committee about what he describes as Jones's, quote, atrocious professional reputation within the federal law enforcement community in Minnesota. An 8-page single-spaced letter, which, by the way, I mean, most people, you get an 8-page single-spaced letter, right, Cameron? Okay, I'm going to set this one aside over here. I didn't mention my cats told me anything. My cats told me to write to you, but again, this is from the former director of the FBI office in Minneapolis, so, you know, he writes, quote, he was and still remains a significant impediment for federal law enforcement to effectively protect the citizens of Minnesota from violent gang, drug, and gun activities. And he said he decided to go public because active law enforcement officers in Minnesota are afraid to do so. But they weren't afraid to go stand behind the president today. At least some of them weren't. Maybe they were told to. Oswald says, quote, what I hope would happen is that the Senate would subpoena some of these people to come in and talk. Todd Jones declined a request for comment last Thursday. Senator Chuck Grassley said that Mr. Oswald provides some very disturbing allegations in his letter that we'll be looking into. I hope others who Mr. Oswald mentioned will not be intimidated to talk to us about Jones's leadership skills and his ability to run an agency that is in disarray. The Star-Tribune says a number of state and federal law enforcement officers have complained privately for at least a year about the handling of drug, gun, and violent crime cases by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota. Oswald oversaw FBI ops in Minnesota and the Dakotas as special agent in charge of the Minneapolis division from May of 2011 through May of 2012 when he retired to practice law in Florida. Jones says, all right, look, the complainers, they're just mad because we shifted our priorities away from the street-level crimes to, quote, this is how the Star-Tribune describes it, more complex crimes involving drug cartels and to time-consuming white-collar crimes and terrorism cases. Because what has happened, what Mr. Oswald showed, was that in every category, the number of prosecutions has gone down. So there are fewer people who are being charged and fewer people being prosecuted. Gene Cooney, and I find that actually, let me just quote 2 paragraphs here, 3. Oswald disputed Jones's claims in his letter to the committee and included charts that he said showed, quote, Mr. Jones' statistical accomplishments for FY 2012 are down in every category. Gene Cooney, a spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota, responded with a chart that she says shows prosecutors in the office working longer hours. She says, quote, while the number of defendants has gone down, work years have gone up substantially. Less easy cases, more harder cases. Okay, now, time out for Joe Taxpayer for a second. Gene Cooney, we were not born yesterday. You cannot simply tell us we're working more hours and expect us as taxpayers, not as members of the bureaucracy, to automatically say, oh, okay, that must mean you're working harder then. No. What that tells me as a taxpayer is that I'm paying you more, and the people in Minnesota are paying you more. What are they getting for these longer hours? I mean, I got kids. If I go tell my 12-year-old, go clean your room, and he comes down in 20 minutes, and I say, is your room clean? He says, yeah, and I go up and I check, and his room's clean. Cool. I don't care how long it took. If I go say, hey, go clean your room, and he comes down 2 hours from now and I say, is your room clean? And he says, yeah, and I go up there and it's not clean. But Dad, I worked for 2 hours. What am I going to say? Oh, well, in that case, you're right. You worked for 2 hours. So I guess the room is actually clean after all. Longer hours doesn't automatically translate to more difficult cases. It could translate to goofing off, which is not outside the realm of possibility when dealing with the bureaucracy. Oswald's letter further criticizes Jones for his support of Assistant U.S. Attorney Carol Kaiser, the daughter of one of his mentors at the Minneapolis law firm of Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Cerisi, where Jones has been a partner and a major financial contributor to Democratic politicians. She came to the office in 2008 from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Atlanta. Oswald's letter says he has received numerous complaints about her, quote, abrasive interactions with agents and their supervisors who described her as antagonistic and inconsistent for her reasons for rejecting cases. He says, quote, I've come to believe that Ms. Kaiser is single-handedly responsible for the disenfranchisement and destruction of relationships between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the federal agencies involved with guns and drugs. He said he and his counterparts in other federal agencies complained to Todd Jones at their monthly meetings, but Jones reacted defensively and, quote, vehemently defended Kaiser. Oswald concludes he did so because he was close to her father, 75-year-old Thomas Kaiser. Campaign finance records, according to the Star Tribune, show Thomas Kaiser and his family members have given more than $350,000 to Democrats since 1990, including more than $17,000 to President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden. The Star Tribune says Oswald's letter supports complaints by a number of law enforcement sources that Jones and Kaiser refused to prosecute criminal operations over the last 2 years, despite wiretap evidence and seizures of drugs, recovered firearms, and large amounts of cash. Since the FBI Safe Streets Task Force was formed about 2 years ago, agents and local law enforcement have brought at least 10 large conspiracy cases to the office and then had them turned down for federal prosecution. But whoa, wait, I thought that the reason why these numbers were down is because they were doing more of these large cases. It was the street-level crimes that they weren't focusing on. Jones said in an earlier interview, some cases were rejected for further investigation. U.S. Attorney spokeswoman said the task force has had problems recognized by an independent review. But some of the cases were actually referred to local law enforcement. When they were rejected by the U.S. Attorney, local law enforcement went ahead and picked up the case and got prosecution. They got convictions. Oswald's letter cites one case. Investigators started in 2010, bought more than 16 pounds of meth, recovered at least $500,000, and proved the connection to the La Familia drug cartel. But the case was prosecuted in October by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. And Pedro Ayala was sentenced in December to 30 years in state prison, the longest drug sentence in state history, the remaining 19 defendants being tried by the county attorney. But, in the meantime, President Obama says this is the guy he wants running the ATF. And I don't believe he's made any reference to the letter from Don